My name is Amanda, and I thought I knew what happiness looked like until my baby shower turned into the most devastating day of my life. At 32 weeks pregnant with my first child, I was glowing with excitement about becoming a mother, supported by my loving husband, Michael, and my best friend since college, Rachel Morrison. But sometimes the people closest to you are the ones planning your destruction, and sometimes the most joyful celebrations become the stage for the cruelest revelations. Michael and I had been trying to get pregnant for almost 3 years. We'd gone through fertility testing, hormone treatments, and 2 heartbreaking miscarriages before finally getting the positive pregnancy test that stuck. When we heard our baby's heartbeat for the first time at 8 weeks, we both cried tears of pure joy. "This is it," Michael whispered, squeezing my hand in the doctor's office. "This is our miracle baby." I was 31 years old, working as a graphic designer for a marketing firm in Austin, Texas. Michael was 34, a software engineer at a tech startup downtown. We'd been married for 6 years, together for 8, and had spent the last 3 years focused entirely on starting our family. "I can't wait to be a dad," Michael would say every night, talking to my growing belly. "I'm going to teach you to ride bikes and throw baseball and change the oil in your car." "What if it's a girl?" I would tease. "Then I'm going to teach her to ride bikes and throw softball and change the oil in her car," he'd respond without missing a beat. Michael was an amazing husband and was already proving to be an incredible father-to-be. He read pregnancy books, assembled the nursery furniture, and came to every single doctor's appointment. He rubbed my feet when they swelled, brought me ice cream at midnight when I had cravings, and never once complained when pregnancy hormones made me emotional or difficult. "I love watching you become a mother," he told me one evening as we were painting the nursery a soft yellow color, since we'd decided to wait until birth to find out the baby's gender. "You're already so protective and nurturing. This baby is going to be so lucky." Throughout my pregnancy, my best friend Rachel was incredibly supportive and involved. Rachel and I had been roommates at University of Texas and had stayed close ever since graduation. She was like a sister to me. We talked every day, spent holidays together, and had been each other's maid of honor at our respective weddings. Rachel was married to David Morrison, a financial advisor who worked at the same firm as my brother-in-law. Our friendship had become even closer over the years because our husbands got along well, and we often did couple activities together. "I'm so excited to be an honorary aunt," Rachel said when I first told her about the pregnancy. "This baby is going to be so spoiled by Aunt Rachel." Rachel had been trying to get pregnant for about 2 years herself, without success so far. She'd been incredibly generous and supportive about my pregnancy, despite what I knew must have been some painful feelings about her own fertility struggles. "It's going to happen for you too," I assured her, after a particularly emotional conversation about her latest negative pregnancy test. "The doctor said there's nothing wrong with either you or David. It just takes time sometimes." "I know," Rachel said, though I could hear the sadness in her voice. "I just see how happy you and Michael are, and I want that so badly for David and me." When I was about 28 weeks pregnant, Rachel volunteered to throw me a baby shower. "I want to do this for you," she insisted, when I protested that she didn't need to take on such a big project. "You're my best friend, and this is such a special time. Let me celebrate your miracle baby properly." Rachel threw herself into planning the baby shower with the same enthusiasm and attention to detail that she brought to everything in her life. She was naturally organized and creative, with a background in event planning from her job at a nonprofit that organized fundraising galas. "I'm thinking a garden party theme," she said excitedly, showing me Pinterest boards she'd created. Soft pastels, fresh flowers, elegant, but not too formal. Something that reflects how beautiful and serene you look pregnant. "That sounds perfect," I said, "but please don't go overboard. I know baby showers can get expensive." "Don't worry about the cost," Rachel waved off my concerns. "David and I want to do this for you. Consider it our gift to baby Thompson." Over the next month, Rachel coordinated every detail of the shower. She booked the community center in our neighborhood, hired a caterer, arranged for flowers, created custom invitations, and coordinated with all the guests about bringing gifts and food contributions. "Rachel is going above and beyond," Michael observed one evening after Rachel had spent 2 hours at our house going over shower logistics with me. "You're really lucky to have a friend like that." "I know," I agreed. "I don't know what I did to deserve someone who cares about me this much." The guest list for the shower included about 40 women, family members from both sides, college friends, co-workers, neighbors, and women from Michael's family. Rachel had somehow managed to coordinate with all of them about timing, gifts, and food contributions, without me having to worry about any of the details. "All you have to do is show up and look gorgeous," Rachel told me the week before the shower. "Everything else is handled." 2 weeks before the shower, Rachel asked if Michael would be available to help with some setup on the morning of the event. "I know it's traditionally a women-only thing," she said, "but I could really use some help moving tables and decorating. David has to work that morning, and I don't want to ask your dad to do heavy lifting." "I'm sure Michael would be happy to help," I said. "He loves projects like that." Michael was indeed happy to help with the shower setup. He liked Rachel and David, and he was excited about any celebration related to our baby. "It's nice that Rachel is doing all this work for you," he said. "She's really going out of her way to make this special." The night before the shower, I was feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. At 32 weeks pregnant, I was big enough that moving around was becoming uncomfortable, but I was still feeling healthy and energetic. The baby was active and growing perfectly, according to our most recent ultrasound. "I can't believe we're going to meet this little person in just 2 months," I said to Michael as we were getting ready for bed. "I can't believe I'm going to be someone's dad," he replied, resting his hand on my belly. "It still doesn't feel real." "It feels very real to me," I laughed, shifting to find a comfortable sleeping position, especially at 3 a.m. when someone is doing gymnastics in there. "I love that you're carrying our baby," Michael said softly. "I love watching your body change and knowing that you're growing our child." "You're amazing." I fell asleep that night, feeling incredibly grateful for my life. Loving husband, healthy pregnancy, supportive friends and family, and a beautiful celebration planned for the next day. The morning of the shower, Michael left early to help Rachel with setup, while I took my time getting ready. I'd bought a new maternity dress for the occasion, a flowing blue sundress that made me feel beautiful despite being 8 months pregnant. "You look absolutely radiant," my mother said when she arrived to help me with final preparations. "Pregnancy really suits you, sweetheart." "I feel good," I said honestly, tired and uncomfortable sometimes, but mostly just excited and happy. We arrived at the community center at noon, and I was blown away by what Rachel had created. The space had been transformed into a beautiful garden party, setting with round tables covered in pastel linens, centerpieces of fresh spring flowers, and elegant decorations that perfectly captured the serene, celebratory mood I'd hoped for. "Rachel, this is incredible," I said, giving her a huge hug when I saw her. "You've outdone yourself." I wanted it to be perfect for you, Rachel said, hugging me back. You deserve nothing but the best. Over the next hour, guests arrived, and the party atmosphere built naturally. There was delicious food, mimosas for the non-pregnant guests, and a beautiful cake decorated with baby-themed designs in soft yellow and green. This is like something out of a magazine, gushed my sister-in-law, Jennifer. Rachel should go into professional party planning. She really should, agreed my college roommate, Sarah. I've never been to such an elegant baby shower. For the first 2 hours of the party, everything was absolutely perfect. We played baby shower games, ate delicious food, and I felt surrounded by love and excitement about the baby's arrival. Rachel was the perfect hostess, making sure everyone felt included and that all the activities ran smoothly. Speech, speech, someone called out after we'd finished eating and were preparing to move on to gift opening. Rachel stood up and tapped her champagne glass to get everyone's attention. I just want to say a few words about Amanda, she began, smiling at me warmly. Amanda has been my best friend for over 10 years, and I can honestly say she's one of the most loving, generous, loyal people I've ever known. Everyone awed appropriately, and I felt tears starting to form in my eyes. Amanda is going to be an incredible mother, Rachel continued. She's patient, nurturing, and has so much love to give. This baby is going to be so lucky to have her as a mom. And Michael as a dad, someone called out from the audience. Absolutely, Rachel agreed, her smile never wavering. Michael is going to be a wonderful father. He's so devoted to Amanda and already so protective of this baby. More applause and happy murmurs from the group. Amanda, I have loved being part of this journey with you, Rachel said, looking directly at me. From the fertility struggles to the excitement of the positive test, to watching you bloom into this gorgeous pregnant woman. It's been such a privilege to share this experience with you. I was definitely crying now. Rachel's words were so heartfelt and beautiful, and I felt overwhelmed with gratitude for having such an amazing friend. And now, Rachel said, it's time for presents. But before we start with the gifts everyone else brought, I have a very special present for Amanda. Something that I think will make this day even more memorable. Rachel disappeared for a moment and returned carrying a small, elegantly wrapped box with a large bow. This is from me to you, she said, handing me the box with another warm smile. I hope it gives you everything you need to know about your future. I took the box, which was surprisingly heavy for its size. Rachel, you've already done so much. You didn't need to get me anything else. Trust me, Rachel said, her smile becoming a little more mysterious. This is something you need to have. I untied the bow and opened the box. Inside was a manila envelope with my name written on it in Rachel's handwriting. What is it? I asked, confused. Open it, Rachel encouraged. I think you'll find it very illuminating. I opened the envelope and pulled out what appeared to be medical documents. The top page was labeled Paternity Test Results and showed my name, Michael's name, and someone else's name that I didn't immediately recognize. My heart started racing as I tried to process what I was looking at. I don't understand, I said quietly. Keep reading, Rachel said. And for the first time, I noticed that her warm smile had been replaced by something colder and more calculating. I looked at the test results more carefully. According to the document, Michael Thompson was not the biological father of my unborn child. The actual father was listed as David Morrison. David Morrison. Rachel's husband. I stared at the paper in shock, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. This had to be some kind of mistake or sick joke. I don't understand what this is, I said, my voice shaking. It's a paternity test, Rachel said clearly, her voice carrying across the now silent room, showing that the baby you're carrying isn't your husband's. The room erupted in gasps and shocked murmurs as 40 women tried to process what Rachel had just announced. That's impossible, I said, still staring at the paper. Michael is the only man I've ever been with. This has to be wrong. The test is very accurate, Rachel said calmly. 99.9% accurate, to be specific. But I don't understand how, I started to say, then stopped as a horrible realization began to dawn on me. How could David be the father when you've never slept with David? Rachel finished my thought. That's a very good question, Amanda. I looked around the room at the faces of my family and friends, all of whom were watching this conversation with confusion and growing horror. Rachel, what are you saying? My mother asked from across the room. Rachel turned to address the entire group. What I'm saying is that Amanda has been having an affair with my husband David for over a year, and the baby she's been passing off as Michael's miracle child is actually David's. That's not true, I said immediately. I've never had an affair with David or anyone else. Really? Rachel reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. Because I have text messages, photos, and hotel receipts that say otherwise. She started reading from her phone. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Michael is working late, so we'll have plenty of time. That's from you to David, sent last Tuesday. I never sent that message. The baby kicked today, and all I could think about was how much I wish you were here to feel it. From you to David, sent 3 weeks ago. My head was spinning. I had never sent any messages like that to David. I barely communicated with David at all, except for occasional group texts about dinner plans or social events. Rachel, I swear to you, I've never had any kind of relationship with David beyond friendship. I don't know what these messages are, but I didn't send them. Rachel showed her phone screen to my mother and sister-in-law, who were sitting closest to her. Here are the text conversations, months and months of them. Very detailed, very intimate conversations between Amanda and my husband. Let me see that, my mother demanded, taking the phone. As my mother scrolled through whatever was on Rachel's phone, her face went pale with shock. Amanda, she said quietly, these messages are very explicit, and they're coming from your phone number. That's impossible. I've never sent messages like that to anyone. But even as I said it, I was starting to realize that something much more sinister was happening here than a simple case of mistaken identity or false accusations. Rachel, I said slowly, how did you get a paternity test for my baby when the baby hasn't been born yet? Prenatal paternity testing, Rachel explained calmly. It can be done as early as 8 weeks of pregnancy with a simple blood test from the mother and DNA samples from the potential fathers. But I never gave blood for a paternity test. Actually, you did. Remember when you had that blood draw at your doctor's appointment 6 weeks ago? The one where I went with you because Michael was traveling for work? I did remember. Rachel had offered to drive me to a routine prenatal appointment when Michael's business trip got extended at the last minute. I'd been grateful for her support, especially since it was one of the more important appointments where we were checking on the baby's growth and development. You were with me in the waiting room, I said, trying to piece together what had happened. I was. And when you went to the bathroom, I had a quick conversation with the nurse about adding an additional blood test to your standard panel. For your own peace of mind, I told her, because you'd been having some anxiety about the pregnancy. You told them to do a paternity test without my knowledge? I told them to do genetic testing for hereditary diseases. The paternity test was just a bonus analysis I requested from the lab privately. I felt like I was going to vomit. You had my blood tested without my permission? I had your blood tested because I suspected what was going on between you and David, and I needed proof. Nothing is going on between me and David. Then explain the text messages. Explain the hotel receipts. Explain why David's DNA matches your baby's DNA. I looked around the room at 40 women who were all staring at me with various expressions of shock, confusion, and judgment. My mother looked devastated. My sister-in-law looked disgusted. My college friends looked bewildered. I can't explain any of those things because I didn't do any of those things, I said desperately. Rachel, you've been my best friend for 10 years. You know me better than almost anyone. You know I would never cheat on Michael, especially when we were trying so hard to get pregnant. I thought I knew you, Rachel said coldly. But apparently I was wrong about the kind of person you really are. Where's Michael? I asked suddenly, realizing that my husband wasn't anywhere in the room. Where's Michael? He was supposed to be here helping with setup this morning. Rachel's smile became even more chilling. Michael is at home, packing his things. I showed him all the evidence about an hour ago, right after we finished decorating. You told Michael about this insane theory before talking to me. I told Michael the truth about his wife's affair and his wife's pregnancy. He deserves to know that the child you've been carrying isn't his. I felt the world tilting sideways. My husband had been told that I was having an affair and carrying another man's child, and instead of being here to defend me or demand explanations, he was at home packing to leave me. He believed you? I whispered. The evidence is pretty compelling, Amanda. Text messages, DNA results, hotel receipts with your credit card. What was Michael supposed to think? I stood up from my chair as quickly as my pregnant body would allow. I need to go home. I need to talk to Michael. This is all some kind of terrible mistake, and I need to explain to him what's really happening. What's really happening, Rachel said, still in that calm, cold voice, is that you've been caught. Finally. I looked around the room one more time, at all the faces of people I loved and who I thought loved me. Now they were all looking at me like I was a stranger, like I was someone capable of the kind of betrayal Rachel was describing. I didn't do any of this, I said to the room. I don't know how Rachel has fabricated all this evidence, but I swear to you, I have been faithful to my husband, and this baby is Michael's child. DNA doesn't lie, Amanda, Rachel said. I gathered up my purse and car keys with shaking hands. This isn't over, Rachel. I don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it, but I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to prove that you're lying. Good luck with that, Rachel said as I headed toward the exit. I drove home as fast as I safely could, while 8 months pregnant, my mind racing with questions and my heart breaking with every mile. How had Rachel created fake text messages from my phone? How had she gotten hotel receipts with my credit card? And most importantly, how had she manipulated a DNA test to show that David was the father of my baby? When I pulled into my driveway, Michael's car was there, but the garage door was open, and I could see boxes stacked inside. I found Michael in our bedroom, methodically packing clothes into suitcases. Michael, I said from the doorway, we need to talk. He looked up at me, and I could see that he'd been crying. I don't think there's anything to talk about, Amanda. There's everything to talk about. Rachel is lying about all of this. I don't know how or why, but she's fabricated all of that evidence. She showed me the text messages, Amanda, months of them. very detailed, very intimate messages between you and David. I never sent those messages. She showed me hotel receipts with your credit card number. I never used my credit card at any hotels with David. She showed me the DNA test results. I never consented to a DNA test, and the baby is yours, Michael. You're the only man I've ever been with. Michael sat down heavily on our bed, surrounded by half-packed suitcases and the remnants of the life we'd built together. Amanda, I want to believe you, but Rachel has evidence, lots of evidence, and she's your best friend. Why would she lie about something like this? I don't know why she's lying, but she is lying. Michael, you know me. You know I would never cheat on you, especially not when we were trying so hard to have a baby together. I thought I knew you, but these messages, Amanda, they're very specific. Details about your pregnancy, about times when I was traveling, about feelings you supposedly have for David. If you didn't write them, how would Rachel know all those details? I sat down next to Michael on the bed, trying to think through how Rachel could have created such elaborate fake evidence. She's been my best friend for 10 years, I said slowly. She knows everything about my life, my schedule, my relationship with you. She's been involved in every aspect of my pregnancy. She would know enough details to create convincing fake messages. But why would she do that? I don't know. But Michael, I swear on this baby's life, I have never been unfaithful to you. This child is yours. I don't understand how Rachel manipulated that DNA test, but it's wrong. Michael looked at me for a long moment, and I could see him struggling between wanting to believe me and being convinced by whatever evidence Rachel had shown him. The text messages were coming from your phone number, he said quietly. Phone numbers can be spoofed. Text messages can be faked. The credit card receipts had your card number. Credit cards can be cloned or duplicated. The DNA test showed David as the father. DNA tests can be falsified if someone has access to the samples. Michael was quiet, considering what I was saying. Amanda, if all of this is true, if Rachel somehow fabricated all this evidence to frame you for an affair, that would mean she's been planning to destroy your life for months. That's not just lying, that's sociopathic. I know how it sounds. But Michael, think about it. Has Rachel been acting strangely lately? Has she been more involved in our lives than usual? Has she been asking more questions about your work schedule or our relationship? Michael thought for a moment. She did offer to help with a lot of things during your pregnancy. Doctor's appointments, shopping for baby stuff, planning the shower, and she was always asking when I'd be traveling for work. She went with me to my doctor's appointment 6 weeks ago when you were in San Francisco. She could have arranged for the blood test then. But Amanda, even if she could fake text messages and credit cards, how could she fake a DNA test? Those are done by professional labs with strict security protocols. I didn't have an answer for that question, and it was the most damning piece of evidence against me. I don't know, I admitted, but I know that I've never been with David, so the test has to be wrong somehow. Michael stood up and resumed packing. I need some time to think about all this. I need some space to figure out what's true and what isn't. Where are you going? I'm going to stay with my brother for a while, until I can sort through everything. Michael, please don't leave. We can figure this out together. We can hire a private investigator, get our own DNA test, prove that Rachel is lying. Amanda, I'm 8 months pregnant woman's husband being accused of carrying another man's child. Even if you're telling the truth about the affair, people are going to be talking about this for months. My family, our friends, everyone at work. They're all going to know about these accusations. So you're leaving me because you're embarrassed? I'm leaving because I don't know what to believe anymore, and I need to clear my head before I say or do something I can't take back. Michael finished packing his suitcase and headed toward the door. Michael, I said desperately, if you leave now, you're going to miss the birth of your child. In 4 weeks, this baby is going to be born, and if you're not here, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. He stopped in the doorway but didn't turn around. If it's my child, he said quietly, then I'll regret missing the birth. If it's not my child, then I'll regret wasting 3 years trying to conceive another man's baby. After Michael left, I sat alone in our house, surrounded by baby furniture and shower gifts that had been hastily brought over by my mother. The nursery was ready, the hospital bag was packed, and everything was prepared for our baby's arrival in just 4 weeks. Except now I was facing the possibility of going through labor and delivery alone, while my husband believed I was carrying another man's child. I called Rachel. "Hello, Amanda," she answered on the first ring, her voice still cold and controlled. "Rachel, what have you done? Why are you destroying my life?" "I'm not destroying your life, Amanda. I'm revealing the truth about your life. You know there is no truth to any of this. You know I've never had an affair with David. Do I? Because the evidence suggests otherwise. Evidence that you fabricated." Rachel was quiet for a moment. "Amanda, even if I had the technical skills and resources to fake text messages, clone credit cards, and falsify DNA tests, which I don't, why would I want to destroy the life of my best friend? I don't know why. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Maybe you should spend less time trying to figure out my motivations and more time thinking about how you're going to explain to your child why Daddy isn't around. Rachel, please. If our friendship has ever meant anything to you, please tell me what's really going on. Our friendship ended the day you decided to sleep with my husband." "I never slept with your husband." "Then explain the DNA test, Amanda. Explain how David's genetic material ended up in your baby if you never had sex with him." I couldn't explain it, which was the most frustrating part of this entire nightmare. Even if Rachel had somehow faked everything else, I couldn't figure out how she could have manipulated a genetic test. Unless... "Rachel," I said slowly, "where is David right now?" "David is at work, trying to figure out how he's going to explain to his colleagues that his wife's best friend has been stalking him and is now claiming he's the father of her baby." "David thinks I've been stalking him?" "David thinks you've developed an unhealthy obsession with him and have been sending him inappropriate messages for months. And he never told you about these messages until now. He was trying to handle it discreetly because he didn't want to hurt our friendship. But when the DNA results proved that you've been lying about your baby's paternity, he realized he had to come forward with the truth. I felt like I was talking to a stranger. This cold, calculating person on the phone bore no resemblance to the Rachel who had been my best friend for 10 years. "Rachel, I need to ask you a direct question, and I need you to answer me honestly. Have you been planning to destroy my marriage and my life for months?" "Amanda, I would never plan to destroy anyone's life. But when I discovered that my best friend was having an affair with my husband and lying about her baby's paternity, I had to take action to protect my own marriage and reveal the truth." "That's not an answer. That's the only answer you're going to get." Rachel hung up on me. Over the next 3 days, I tried everything I could think of to prove my innocence and expose Rachel's lies. I hired a private investigator to look into how the evidence against me could have been fabricated. I contacted a lawyer about the legality of Rachel ordering medical tests without my consent. I tried to get Michael to agree to a second DNA test with a different lab, but Michael wouldn't take my calls. The private investigator said the evidence against me looked legitimate, and my lawyer said that proving medical fraud would be extremely difficult without concrete proof of Rachel's involvement. Meanwhile, word about the baby shower incident had spread throughout our social circle. I was getting calls and texts from friends and family members who had heard various versions of the story and wanted to know what was really going on. Amanda, honey, your father and I are trying to understand what happened. My mother said when she came over to check on me. Rachel showed us very convincing evidence, but we've known you your whole life, and this doesn't seem like something you would do. It's not something I would do, Mom. It's not something I did do. Rachel is lying about all of this, but I can't prove it yet. But sweetheart, why would Rachel lie? She's been like a daughter to us for 10 years. She has no reason to want to hurt you. That was the question everyone kept asking, and I didn't have a good answer. What possible motivation could Rachel have for destroying my life so thoroughly and publicly? On the 4th day after the shower, I got a call from David Morrison. Amanda, we need to talk, he said. Can I come over? Does Rachel know you're calling me? Rachel doesn't know, and I'd prefer to keep it that way for now. David came over that evening, and for the first time since the baby shower disaster, I felt like I might get some answers. Amanda, I need you to know that I had no idea what Rachel was planning, David said immediately. The baby shower was the first time I heard any of these accusations about us having an affair. So you didn't give Rachel evidence about text messages or hotel receipts? I never received any text messages from you. I've never been to any hotels with you. Until 4 days ago, I had no idea that Rachel thought we were having an affair. Then how did she get all that evidence? David looked uncomfortable. I think Rachel has been monitoring my communications and my activities more closely than I realized. What do you mean? I mean, I think my wife has been tracking my phone, monitoring my emails, and possibly even following me without my knowledge. Why would she do that? Because Rachel has been suspicious and jealous about my interactions with other women for our entire marriage. She's always been possessive, but it's gotten much worse over the past year or two. Possessive how? She wants to know where I am every minute of the day. She gets upset if I talk to female colleagues at work functions. She's accused me of flirting with waitresses, cashiers, even my sister's friends. And she's been increasingly paranoid that I'm going to leave her for someone else. This was news to me. In 10 years of friendship with Rachel, she never seemed particularly jealous or insecure about her marriage. David, has Rachel ever talked to you about me specifically? About being jealous of me or feeling threatened by our friendship? David hesitated. Rachel has made comments over the years about how close you and I seem, how much Michael trusts me around you, how comfortable we are together as couples. What kind of comments? Things like, David seems to enjoy Amanda's company more than mine, or I notice David always sits next to Amanda at dinner parties, or Amanda seems to flirt with David a lot for a married woman. I've never flirted with you. I know you haven't, but Rachel sees flirtation in completely innocent interactions. So you think Rachel convinced herself that we were having an affair even though we weren't? I think Rachel has been looking for evidence of an affair that didn't exist. And when she couldn't find real evidence, she created fake evidence. But David, what about the DNA test? How could Rachel fake a DNA test showing you as the father of my baby? David looked even more uncomfortable. Amanda, I need to tell you something that's going to sound crazy, but I think it might explain the DNA results. What? 6 months ago, Rachel asked me to donate sperm to a fertility clinic. What? She said she'd read about couples who were having trouble conceiving, and sometimes it helped to have the man make deposits at fertility clinics so they could select the best quality sperm for insemination. That's not how fertility treatment works, David. I know that now. But at the time, Rachel showed me articles and websites that made it seem like a legitimate medical procedure. She said it would increase our chances of getting pregnant if we were using professionally prepared sperm samples. I stared at David as the implications of what he was telling me began to sink in. You gave Rachel sperm samples? I made deposits at what I thought was a fertility clinic. Rachel handled all the logistics and paperwork. David, I think Rachel used your sperm to artificially inseminate herself into my pregnancy somehow. How is that possible? I don't know. But if Rachel had access to your genetic material and my medical appointments, maybe she found a way to contaminate my blood samples or manipulate the lab results. David and I spent the next 2 hours trying to figure out how Rachel could have used his sperm donation to create false paternity results. We couldn't come up with a definitive answer, but we both agreed that Rachel's behavior had been increasingly erratic and obsessive. I'm going to confront Rachel tonight, David said as he was leaving. I'm going to demand that she explain what she's done and why she's done it. Be careful, David. If Rachel is as unstable as we think she is, confronting her directly might be dangerous. She's my wife. I have to try to get the truth from her. The next morning, David called me in tears. Amanda, Rachel is gone. What do you mean, gone? I confronted her last night about the sperm donations and the fake evidence. She didn't deny any of it. She said she'd been planning this for months because she couldn't stand watching you and Michael be so happy when she and I were struggling to get pregnant. So she admitted to framing me? She admitted everything. The fake text messages, the cloned credit card, the manipulated DNA test. She said she wanted to destroy your marriage because she was jealous of your pregnancy and your relationship with Michael. Where is she now? She packed a bag and left in the middle of the night. She said she was moving back to California to stay with her sister. She left divorce papers on the kitchen table. I felt a mix of vindication and devastation. I'd been right that Rachel was lying, but the damage she'd caused to my marriage and my reputation might be irreparable. David, will you help me prove my innocence? Will you testify to what Rachel told you? Of course. I'm so sorry, Amanda. I had no idea what she was planning. It took 3 weeks to assemble enough evidence to prove that Rachel had fabricated everything. The private investigator was able to trace the fake text messages to spoofing software on Rachel's computer. The credit card company confirmed that my card had been cloned, and the lab that had processed my blood work admitted that their security protocols had been compromised by someone claiming to be my medical advocate. By the time we had proof of Rachel's deception, I was 35 weeks pregnant and going to prenatal appointments alone. Michael agreed to meet with me and the private investigator to review the evidence, but even after seeing proof that I'd been framed, he seemed hesitant to come home. Amanda, I believe that you didn't have an affair, he said after reviewing all the documents. But I'm struggling with the fact that your best friend was able to destroy our marriage so easily. It makes me question everything about our life together. Michael, Rachel didn't destroy our marriage. She lied about our marriage. There's a difference. Is there? Because for 3 weeks, I've been living with the belief that our entire relationship was a lie. Even knowing the truth now, I can't forget what it felt like to think that you'd betrayed me and that our baby wasn't mine. But now you know that I didn't betray you and the baby is yours. I know that intellectually, but emotionally, I'm still dealing with the trauma of what Rachel put us through. Michael came home the next day, but our relationship was fragile and strained. We were polite to each other, but the easy intimacy and trust we'd shared before Rachel's deception was gone. I want to trust you completely again, Michael told me one evening as we sat in the nursery, surrounded by baby preparations. But I keep thinking about how convincing Rachel's lies were, and it makes me paranoid about everything. Michael, we can work through this. We can go to counseling, rebuild our trust, and move forward together. I want to. But Amanda, what if there are other things about our life that I don't know? What if there are other people who are lying to us or manipulating us? Then we'll deal with those problems when they arise. But we can't let Rachel's betrayal destroy our ability to trust anyone, including each other. Our daughter Elena was born 3 days after her due date. Michael was there for the delivery. And the moment Elena was placed in his arms, I could see the connection forming between father and daughter. "She's perfect," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "She's absolutely perfect. She's ours," I said. "She's really, truly ours." A week later, we received Elena's official birth certificate in the mail, along with a voluntary paternity test that Michael had requested to put any lingering doubts to rest. Michael Thompson was confirmed as Elena's biological father with 99.9% certainty. "I'm sorry I doubted you," Michael said that evening as we were giving Elena her bath. "I'm sorry I let Rachel's lies make me question everything about us." "We both learned something important," I said. "We learned that our relationship is strong enough to survive even the most devastating betrayal from someone we trusted." 6 months later, we received word that Rachel had been arrested in California for identity theft and fraud, related to another scheme she'd orchestrated against a different family. Apparently, destroying my life hadn't satisfied whatever psychological need was driving her behavior. David divorced Rachel and moved to Texas to be closer to his family while he rebuilt his life. He sent Elena a beautiful baby gift and a card apologizing for his ex-wife's actions. Michael and I went to marriage counseling for 6 months to work through the trust issues that Rachel's deception had created. It was difficult, but ultimately it made our relationship stronger and more honest. "I never want to go through anything like that again," Michael said after our final counseling session. "But I'm grateful that we survived it together. I'm grateful too. And I'm grateful that Elena will grow up in a home where her parents chose to fight for their relationship instead of giving up when things got difficult. 2 years later, we're happier than we've ever been. Elena is a beautiful, healthy toddler who looks exactly like Michael. We've built new friendships with people who have proven themselves to be trustworthy and loyal. As for Rachel, I heard through mutual acquaintances that she's been in and out of psychiatric treatment and has been diagnosed with several personality disorders that help explain her obsessive and destructive behavior. I don't hate Rachel anymore. I pity her. The jealousy and mental illness that drove her to try to destroy my life ultimately destroyed her own life instead. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I hadn't questioned her accusations. If I'd just accepted that the evidence against me was real and given up on proving my innocence. But I knew who I was, and I knew what I had and hadn't done. That knowledge gave me the strength to fight for the truth, even when everyone around me believed the lies. The most devastating betrayals often come from the people we trust most. But surviving that betrayal taught me that the truth is always worth fighting for, even when it seems impossible to prove. Elena will grow up knowing that her parents love each other enough to fight for their relationship, and that sometimes the most important battles are the ones you fight to protect the people you love from those who would try to destroy them.